Where are most of the people employed? Graph to present percentage share of three sectors in GDP. You can see here the changing importance of three sectors from year 1973 to 2003. In 1973, the share of GDP by primary sector was around 45%, secondary sector around 20%, whereas tertiary sector was around 35%. So, according in year 1973, primary sector was the most important sector. But in year 2003, the share of GDP is in primary sector, it is nearly 25%, in secondary 20%, and in tertiary you can see it is more than 50%, around 55%. A remarkable fact about India is that while there has been a change in the share of three sectors in GDP, a similar shift has not taken place in employment. Graph 3 shows the share of employment in three sectors. In year 1973 and 2000, the primary sector continues to be the largest employer even in year 2000. You can see in 2000 also the largest share of sector in employment is primary sector. After primary sector, next is tertiary, and the last is secondary sector. Why didn't a similar shift out of primary sector happen in the case of employment? It is because not enough jobs were created in the secondary and tertiary sector. Enough jobs were not available for the rising population in secondary and tertiary sector. So because of this reason, many pupils were engaged in the primary sector in the year 2000. Even though industrial output or the production of goods went up by 8 times during the period, employment in the industry went up by only 2.5 times. The same applies to tertiary as well. While production in the service sector rose by 11 times, employment in the service sector rose less than 3 times. As a result, more than half of the workers in the country are working in primary sector. So because of this reason, more than half of the workers are working in the primary sector, mainly in the agriculture, producing only a quarter of the GDP. It produced only a quarter, means 1/4 of the GDP. In contrast to this, the secondary and tertiary sectors produce 3/4 of the producing, whereas they employ less than half of the people. More than half of the people are engaged in the agriculture sector, but the production in the agriculture sector is only 1/4, but the remaining 3/4 portion is done by the secondary and tertiary sector, where the people less than half of the people are engaged.